Do you remember the time before using an MDM? macOS deployments felt more like a ritual and less like a planned process. I definitely do. Back then, the MacBooks had freshly unboxed on the desk, and then it began. Clicking through Setup Assistant, creating user, enabling File Vault, opening terminal, typing in some random commands, and at the very end, the device name, forgotten again. So off you go, chasing the user. Windows installations felt more structured back then. That was our benchmark. It was a gradual process. More effort, more devices, more special cases. And us? Honestly, we thought, this is fine, that's just how it works. Today, with a bit of distance, we can only ask ourselves, what the fuck? How did we keep this up for so long? Today, things work differently. We automate what repeats, no click through setups, no manual configuration. Today, we define standards instead of chasing them. That's why my title today is macOS deployment from what the fuck to for the win. Over the next 30 minutes, I'll take you along on our journey from hands-on to light touch, all the way to zero-touch deployment. I am Mirko Steinbrecher, client platform engineer at Hypoport. With the Jamf Pro business plan, we are managing over 1,000 Apple devices, approximately 640 macOS and 550 iOS devices. I work in IT at Hypoport Hub SE in Germany, Berlin. As an independent company, Hypoport Hub SE provides central administrative services, consulting, and other services for affiliated companies and third parties. The Hypoport Group is a network of technology companies serving the credit, housing, and insurance industries. Its business areas are organized into 3 operating segments: real estate and mortgage platforms, financing platforms, and insurance platforms. The 4th segment holding essentially comprises Hypoport SE and Hypoport Hub SE. When I started at Hypoport in 2018, we had around 115 Macs and approximately 50 iOS devices, still without MDM. Instead, Empirum from Matrix 42. Does anyone know Empirum? No one? Okay. The macOS setup, local, manual, hands-on. The devices were domain joined, firewall activation after first user login, booting into firmware mode to set a firmware password, a lot of terminal commands, and so on. At this time, there was a 3-page Word document as a guide for us admins, and deployment was only possible on site. It was manual, time-consuming, error-prone. Here you can see the Empirum GUI that users saw when software was being installed on their device. When users wanted to search for new software, the agent looked like this, and it only worked on the corporate network or via VPN. The Empirum management console itself looked like Windows 95. Well, it was primarily a Windows product with some macOS functionality, but macOS support was poor and it wasn't an MDM solution. Finally, in 2021, we launched with Jamf Pro, now 350 Macs. After a 3-day Jamf onboarding, we were immediately on par with Empirum and better. We initially started with domain join, but quickly switched to Jamf Connect for account creation. With Apple Business Manager and automated device enrollment, we were finally able to enroll devices directly into Jamf Pro. enrollment still relied heavily on enrollment complete triggers and recurring check-in triggers, and was also done together with the user on site. As you can see here, we see nothing. This was what the user see after first login to macOS. At that time, our enrollment process had no user-facing GUI, so users couldn't see what was happening or know when the device was ready to use or if an error occurred. At this time, we were just starting out and still learning. Then came the key moment, a broken Mac in Cologne. One user had water damage to his MacBook in his home office, and I thought, how can we handle it? The user had come to the office. This means a lot of time and effort. But wait, we have an MDM right now. So I wiped the MacBook, sent it by courier, and next morning we deployed it completely remotely for the first time. That's when we knew, now we are on track, and we want more. That's why we introduced DEPNotify at the beginning of 2022, our first light touch deployment. Our light touch approach, simple but effective. We automated the installation of standard apps like Office, Chrome, TeamViewer, and printer drivers. We also customized DEPNotify with dynamic text and images to give users more visibility into what was happening during enrollment. However, many policies were still triggered by enrollment complete or recurring check-in. That means even after DEPNotify finished, several policies continued running in the background, installing apps and scripts. The user experience, not quite there yet. At that time, we started including paper handouts with each MacBook to guide users through the enrollment process. This was especially important since devices could be enrolled offline back then, meaning they wouldn't always register properly in Jamf Pro. And the physical side, each device was labeled with an asset tag sticker. Later, our vendor who supplies the MacBooks took over this process. One less thing for us to handle. Since September 2024, we've been using Set Up Your Mac, our first zero-touch deployment. Because DEPNotify was no longer being developed. Why Set Up Your Mac? The Set Up Your Mac community is large. The Mac admin Slack is very helpful. Dan Snelson is also very supportive. And there is a lot of documentation out there. At that time, Jamf Setup Manager was released. But we were already too far along with our Set Up Your Mac implementation. Today, Set Up Your Mac installs all necessary standard apps, and once it's finished, the device is ready to use. And if Set Up Your Mac doesn't start automatically, we have a backup policy in self-service. Previously, everything was done manually. Now, it's automated. At the beginning, the user must enter their asset tag. It needs to be a 5-digit number in our case. And after that, Set Up Your Mac installs things like a pre-flight check script. It installs all required apps, sets the device name, so no chasing the user, configures the firewall keyboard layout, applies Finder settings, checks if firewall is enabled, and configures the dock. At the end, a Swift dialog notification tells the user how to access the wiki for instructions on setting up standard apps like Outlook, Teams, and OneDrive. So we've been pondering this for a while. How can we best guide the user through the setup process, especially Setup Assistant? Shout out to SAP for the idea and inspiration, because I saw their solution in a LinkedIn post. So we started gathering ideas, and my workmate started creating a website. We were practically forced to switch from paper handouts to digital ones because Apple introduced with macOS 15.4 the new transfer data to this Mac setup pane. When changes were made to the paper handout, it always took some time until only the latest versions were sent out from our vendor. We had to react fast. Users were hitting enrollment errors because they didn't choose setup as new correctly. This is our solution, an email a user receives when their new MacBook is ready for pickup or has been shipped. It takes them straight to our website called Setup Buddy when they click the link or scan the QR code with a mobile device. There, users can see and compare what the enrollment process should look like. First, you can see the essential Apple setup panes, followed by Jamf Connect. And in the lower left corner is the Setup in Mac variant that starts automatically. And we will see the second variant on the lower right corner that shows the variant that needs to be launched manually via self-service. If the enrollment at the user's end deviates, they should contact our support so we can support as quickly as possible. From paper to pixels, fast to update, easy to access, and ready for every platform, this is how we guide users today. What are we planning next? Previously, after a lengthy Swift dialog notification in the end of Setup in Mac, users were directed to the wiki for instructions on how to set up apps, switch Wi-Fi networks, and configure privacy settings. Login was a huddle because of a double login. First, Microsoft account with multi-factor authentication, and a second login for the wiki. This with dialog notification or information was often ignored or dismissed. So our satisfaction was moderate. The idea for the onboarding app came from a Lufthansa Industry Solutions session at JNOC 2024. Previously, we're only scripting, never programmed. But my colleague Dave developed step by step with the help of AI and Xcode. So this is the onboarding app. And first, it's important to choose the location because it's important to change the open deployment Wi-Fi to our corporate 802.1x Wi-Fi. And while the onboarding app is open, users can open apps side by side to compare settings, see what needs to be configured, and where or how to enter data. The app is multilingual in German and English. And users can navigate forward, backward with the arrows. And after the OneDrive setup, we see the privacy settings for the screen recording for Teams and TeamViewer. That's it. And at the end, the user could always choose to enter our wiki, to enter our Mac at Hypoport space for more instructions or tips and tricks. From notification to native app, guided, modern, and always available, this is how we want our onboarding in the future. This is what our deployment process and all user touchpoints look like today. First, the email from ticketing system with information about Setup Buddy. Second, Open Setup Buddy guides users via website through key setup assistance steps and both Setup in Mac variants. Third, The user turns on their MacBook, selects the Wi-Fi, and registers the device. After that, device assignment in Jamf Pro during single sign-on authentication at the identity provider, which is Entra in our case, and then account creation with Jamf Connect. Set up your Mac starts after login. If it doesn't, users triggers the backup policy from self-service. At Setup your Mac's end, Swift dialog notification, or future onboarding app appears with instructions for app setup. Final step, user feedback through Maker Custom. Jamf likes to say, there is no step 3. With us, there are steps 3, 4, and a few more. So what have we learned that helped us develop our macOS deployment? First, gathering inspiration and ideas from Mac Admin Slack, YouTube, Mac conference sessions, blogs, and LinkedIn posts. And second, and very important, collecting user feedback. I created a Microsoft Forms survey and self-service called Maker Custom. It's a pun on Maker with E and Custom, the German words for complaint and box, but with Mac with A up front to show it's just for our Mac community. So 1 week after enrollment, the user gets a Swift dialog notification where we ask for direct feedback. Maker Custom is available in German and English. And with school grades, or with German school grades, users can rate various aspects. Did they already have experience with zero-touch deployment? Was the installation clear, or did they need help? How satisfied are they with the Mac at Hypoport program? And would they choose or recommend a Mac again? The survey is anonymous, but users can optionally leave their name if we may contact them. So we're finished here. We will receive this email once the survey has been completed and another notification in a Teams team channel. This is the survey results, where we can view and analyze the answers to see what can be improved. And if we get critical feedback and the user leaves a name, I contact them and ask what happened and what could be improved. So my recommendation to all is ask users for critical and honest feedback. This is a great way to identify pain points and blind spots. We are Mac admins, but Mac users see things differently. Positive feedback feels good and is nice for your ego, but critical feedback makes us better and helps to improve our solutions or products. That's why I now celebrate the tough stuff. You don't have to agree with the feedback, but just think about it. These links were key to our modern macOS deployment and custom onboarding. First, of course, the GitHub from Setup Your Mac. Second, Dan Snelson's outstanding blog with incredible documentation, videos, scripts, step-by-step guides, and much more besides Setup Your Mac. Third, the JNOC session from the Lufthansa guys that inspired our onboarding app. And last but not least, Rob Schröder's blog with helpful articles on Setup Your Mac, including his Setup Your Mac startup method. Back then, Windows deployment was our benchmark. Today, macOS deployment is no longer catching up. Switching to Jamf Pro and especially zero-touch deployment has given us a crucial boost, particularly during the pandemic and with our growing macOS presence. Scalable, professional, now even superior to Windows deployment. After years of hard work, refresh cycles and device swaps run with almost no effort or hand-holding. What used to take about 2 hours is now handed to the user. I would like to take this opportunity to thank a few people. Huge thanks to the Mac Admins Foundation for selecting me the Charles S. Edge New Speaker Grant. Special shout out to Rebecca, Diego, and Chris for all their help and support. Together with the MacAd team, they made this possible, my first conference presentation, and in English, quite a challenge for me. My deepest thanks to my mentor Armin, who took the time to rehearse with me and gave me invaluable tips. Thanks to Graham for joining one session, listening, and giving feedback. That's why I want to encourage everyone like Armin encouraged me last summer at Jamf Nation Live Germany. Submit talks, share your solutions. Community and open source aren't just for consuming. They're for giving back. That's why I stepped out of my comfort zone, and if I can do it, you can too. Finally, if you have any questions, feel free to ask now or later over a beer, and you can always reach me via these channels. Thanks.
Thanks, Mirko. That's very good, thank you. Right, we've got one question. What's stopping you from using Jamf Setup Manager versus set up your Mac?
It doesn't stop us, but we don't have the time now, or we will. I think we will have a look into Jamf Setup Manager, but not yet. But we will have a look into Jamf Setup Manager.
Thanks. Any more? Any hands?
There's 2 more.
They've disappeared. Tom, keep me on my toes. Oh yeah, so there are. Did you previously send the survey via email, and if so, have you noticed an uptake in responses?
I don't get it.
Did you previously send the survey, feedback survey, by email, and have you noticed an uptake in response?
We have the survey in self-service, so we don't send it. And 7 days after enrollment, the user gets a Swift dialog notification, so we don't send.
So it never went by email? No. So we'll cancel that one. Thank you. What is your favorite step in the setup process that is now automated? What has helped your coworkers most?
I would say the whole process, if we compare to the what have we started. So I think set up your Mac was the biggest step, or my favorite step.
I'm guessing the next one is you, Tom, is it?
Oh, no, you stopped.
Is that the long one?
No.
Okay. I'm going to read this in it. Not a question, but a comment. Super well done, Mirko. Very nice session. My favorite of the day. User onboarding is a topic close to my heart, and whilst the focus is generally on the experience, you showed a lot more. The onboarding site and dialogue on Mac are splendid. The feedback form is a great idea. More organizations should be implementing this. There's a couple more questions, but that deserves a round of applause.
Thanks.
This is a record for questions, so we're keeping going. How do you handle new users on the same Mac?
Okay, I have to read the question, sorry. You mean, yeah, our help desk has to wipe the device and then.
Is that the question? Whoever posed it, nod.
Does that answer the question?
Let's do it the traditional way.
Thank you. Maybe you don't have this scenario. If a user wants another account on this computer or multiple users on the same computer,
That's
you don't have
that's no option.
Okay.
Only one account
One
per
per
device.
one. Okay. Thank you.
So I can read what happens when the user clicks the wrong button. How do you deal with it? So which button do you mean? I mean, we have the setup buddy, and when the setup process deviates, they should contact support, and if something went wrong, the device must wipe again, and the process starts again. So, yeah.
Does that answer the question? Do you want the next one? Do you want to read it?
Okay, what is the security approach? How do you handle privilege? We are using privilege about Jamf Connect. So our users are standard users, and only developers get the right to use admin rights, and they can activate admin rights for 50 minutes, and after that they got devoted again.
I think that's it. We got any more from the floor? We do. It's always at the furthest point. Can I just squeeze through?
Hi, Mirko. It's Diego. Firstly, thank you for the talk. Really appreciate it. It's also really reassuring to see people putting effort into split deployments, especially when it's not an enormous fleet. So it's really wonderful to see that there is care and attention in places where obviously you're a Microsoft shop, and so this may go unnoticed by the majority of your users. The question I have is there any feedback that has come from the survey that has changed how you do your new hire onboarding, or anything that's surprised you and has made it into that process?
I can't remember the questions, and I will think about it, and maybe later you come to me, and maybe I have something in mind.
No worries. I'll ask you again with a beer later.
Yeah, good one.
Thanks. We've got any more? Looking for hands. No, we're good. Thank you very much, Mirko. Well done.
Thanks. Enjoy the podcast.